It took more than 2 weeks to classify Elizabeth as a missing person.
There wasn't anything really to go on to say, well, okay, if what is it that shows that the child is has been abducted?
The runaway can do, come and go as they please. This child was almost hostage-like.
Nobody could tell us right then that they saw the child forced into a car.
Like I said, I had no clue this child was missing at all until the next day.
So if the police had put that picture of her out there sooner,
I would have grabbed the little girl and I would have kicked him, tried to do everything I could to keep him back from her.
not a runaway like the police had originally thought.
They're investigating and still looking for her. They've told me they're optimistic just to stay strong.
I'm hearing in my ear that the body of Elizabeth Ennen, just 15 years old, went to babysit, never was seen again. Then grainy surveillance video emerges of her being forced into a local motel and then back out into the parking lot a couple of hours later. The perpetrator in that video, the father, the daddy of the little children she was babysitting. In the last 15 minutes, we learned her body has been found. Out to Stephanie Brzezinski, reporter KAMC, joining us from Lubbock. Stephanie, what happened?
Nancy, we were just informed about 30 minutes ago by police that they discovered a body in northwest Lubbock County. It's actually about 20 miles from where Elizabeth was first abducted.
To Michael Board, WOAI News Radio, joining us out of San Antonio. So the fact that the cops first labeled her a runaway, people saw her in a parking lot. If they had known she was kidnapped, if they had ever seen her face again before, that lady would have stopped this guy.
And what's tragic in this case, Nancy, is we know she went missing on the 5th. The next day, they went to her house to talk to her mom. She wasn't there. They finally interviewed her mom on January 7th. It wasn't until the 20th that they interviewed this guy, Humberto Salinas. What happened for 2 weeks? What were the police doing for 2 weeks that they were not looking at, footage from this motel? Shouldn't that have been one of the first things they did in this case? Because they knew that she was there. Why not check the security camera footage in that motel? What were they doing for 2 weeks?
Ellie Joseph, what do you know?
Police are telling us that they cannot yet confirm that this is her. Obviously, they're going to need to do an autopsy, ID the body, but they say there are local reports saying that this is the body of a young female found just outside of Lubbock. It's about 13 miles or so northwest of her home near the town of Shallow Water, Nancy.
Well, Ellie, how many dead girls are there in Lubbock? Are you telling me that there's more than her, that we don't know who the girl's body is? It could be another missing girl's body?
Right, and that's not what I'm telling you at all, Nancy, but it's the usual scenario where police tell us they do have a body, but they won't tell us who that body is right now.
Take it from the top, Ellie. What happened?
Okay, well, this is January 4th, going into the morning of January 5th. Elizabeth is babysitting for some family friends. It is a friend of her mother's, his wife, their children. She was, some say she was dating. Her family says that it wasn't really a dating scenario, but she kind of liked their eldest son. She's babysitting for them. She never comes home that night. Now, according to the suspect, he says that she wanted to go home at about 1 o'clock. He bundled up the little kids, took them in the car, dropped her off. He says he saw her open the screen door and, start to go inside her house. But her family says she never got inside. Now, police uncovered a surveillance video that tells a different story about what happened that night.
Michael Board, go through the surveillance video with me. What do you see on the surveillance video?
It's totally creepy when you first know the way that Salinas talked to police. When Salinas was interviewed by police, he says, I love this girl. She's like a daughter to me. And then on this surveillance video, what we're told you see on this is he, forcing her back into the hotel room. She tried to run at one point. He grabbed her by the arm and forced her back into his motel room. At another point, you can see on the video, he's chasing her down the hallway and corners her. Is that the way you treat a girl that you tell police is, no, she's like a daughter to me? It just doesn't make sense, Nancy.
Pick it up at the beginning, Liz. Let's go through what we know about that video. Grainy surveillance video emerges, and we learn what happened before this girl went missing. A 15-year-old girl, Elizabeth Ennen, goes to babysit 6:18 p.m. She enters the motel with Humberto Salinas to babysit his children. He leaves with his wife and her sister like 30 minutes later. 10:48 that night, he returns alone. It's nearly 11. 11:47, the girl exits, walks down the hallway in a hurry, carrying her shoes, trying to put her coat on. He chases her. He returns her back, forcing her into the motel room, his arm under her jacket. This is midnight. Salinas and Ennen exit the room. He forces her into a hallway corner, grabbing her arm. The vehicle leaves the parking lot 12:01 a.m. Just 30 minutes later, he's back. 4 minutes later, he leaves.
Quick.
30 minutes later, back to the hotel room. 1:23 a.m., he leaves the hotel room with his 2 young children. 2 a.m., returns with wife, sister-in-law, and children. 2:04, walks to the south entrance and meets Enen's mother. They walk into the motel room. Okay, what was the mother doing there, Michael Board?
The mother, we know that at one point that Salinas came back to Elizabeth's home to drop off her purse. He said, Elizabeth left her purse in my car. Here, I was bringing this back. And her mom says, well, she wasn't here. And at that point, Salinas, from what we're told the mother, well, she might be with my son. I know they were dating. So, I'm sure there was a point there where the mom was trying to...
dating.
Well,
they were not
that's what
dating. Let's just clear that. So you're saying that's what he said?
Salinas said that Elizabeth might have run away with her son. That's where we're getting all this runaway talk. That's why police originally thought this was a runaway, because Salinas told Elizabeth's mother that Elizabeth might have run away with her son.
Okay. Back to Stephanie Brzezinski, joining us out of Lubbock, Texas. Explain to me what the woman in the parking lot, the footage we got of the lady in the parking lot, what she observed.
Nancy, she actually spotted Elizabeth and Salinas about just last Monday actually, outside that West Lubbock Dollar General store. And she said she immediately noticed that this older man holding tightly to this young little girl and described her as walking robot-like. She said the look in her eyes was just complete fear, and she, for whatever reason, she said she was uncomfortable with stepping in between, but she didn't know that girl was even listed as a runaway until the following day when our story aired.
We are taking your calls out to Cam in Florida. Hi, Cam.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good, dear. What's your question?
Well, let me tell you, I just want to thank you for all the things you do for the mothers and the parents of these children. The one thing I wanted to ask is, in the things that you've been showing tonight, do these kids have...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't hear you. Could you start over, dear?
Yes. I just want to thank you for all that you do for all these children and their parents. And I wanted to ask you, do these kids have computers in their bedrooms, and do their parents know their passwords?
Good question. What do we know, Stephanie Brzezinski?
I do know that Elizabeth did have a cell phone, did have internet use. I do not know whether or not the mother had password, but she's a very protective mother. She kept a good eye on Elizabeth, and she even told us Elizabeth had babysat numerous times before for Humberto Salinas and the family.
To Peter Elkin and Carmen St. George. Peter, defense attorney out of Boston, Carmen in New York. Peter Elkin, it's lethal injection in Lubbock. This is a grown man. He is the father, the daddy of the children she was babysitting.
Yeah, if this is going to all be proved against him, and certainly the evidence is starting to stack up a bit in the, in our early observations, he's certainly facing the death penalty. I don't know why people commit crimes knowing there's video cameras everywhere anymore in this day and age. But if they do have him on there and the evidence is strong against him, maybe he should think about a deal to save his life if they'll even offer him one.
The last thing she told me when I talked to her was that she loved me.
Now police are charging 45-year-old Humberto Salinas Jr. with aggravated kidnapping in her disappearance.